Hello, my name is Kari Schneider, and I'm an assistant professor at the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital. And many of you may have filled out the survey created by myself and my colleague Marissa Hendrickson on breastfeeding among pediatric emergency providers. I apologize for not being there in person today and also have to admit a vested interest in this topic, as I am currently due with my third child next month. I'm just going to take a few quick moments and tell you about some of the results of our survey that went out to the section on emergency medicine this past spring. Email invitations were sent out to the 468 SOEM members, and with subtracting out a few bounce backs, we had a 44.7% enrollment rate. We were able to look at the data from 193 of these. We found really quite impressive rates of breastfeeding initiation and duration in PEM physicians. In blue, you can see the rates of breastfeeding for PEM physicians in our study, and they're higher than those of other physician groups that have been studied by Satari et al. In orange, higher than national rates from 2015 CDC data here in gray, and higher than the Healthy People 2020 goals for breastfeeding in yellow. And that pans out for overall breastfeeding at birth, 6 months, and 12 months, as well as exclusive breastfeeding, as you can see in the graph on the right, at birth, 3 months, and 6 months. Of note, the mean duration of breastfeeding for PEM physicians was an impressive 12.5 months. The main barriers we found to expressing milk at work in a pediatric emergency department were convenient and adequate pumping locations, as well as coverage for patient care while pumping. A third of respondents felt that they had occasionally or never had an appropriate place to express milk. And you can see here where people were actually doing their pumping in increasing order of frequency. We had patient rooms, lactation rooms, call rooms, and sadly, almost a third were using a bathroom. Overwhelmingly, the free text comments, and there were a lot of them, from both breastfeeding physicians as well as those who've never breastfed, discussed the need for more convenient, dedicated places for pumping. And I think it's worth noting that 6-month breastfeeding duration rates were significantly higher for those who sometimes to always had access to what they felt were appropriate locations to pump than for those who never or only occasionally did, 98 versus 85% with a p-value of 0.048. An additional barrier was having coverage for patients, especially critical ones, while pumping. We asked those with single attending coverage if there were any plans in place in their department for ill patient care while pumping. All but one said no, and the respondent that said yes said that she would just stop pumping. We received many comments related to this, including, if I had to go to an emergency, I had to abandon the pumping and usually threw out what I had pumped. It is incredibly stressful, worrying that a sick child will come in and need you immediately. It was difficult to relax enough to be able to pump, and there's nobody else to look after your patients or see a sick patient who's roomed while you're away. There's surely inherent bias in a survey like this on a topic like this, and likely our breastfeeding rates are elevated because of that. But if the true rates are anywhere near those numbers, then we should be very proud of ourselves and our colleagues. Breastfeeding, and especially expressing milk while at work at a job that can be at times very stressful and unexpected, is not easy, and I'm sure this quote from one of our respondents rings true for many PEM breastfeeders. In our study, there was overall a lot of support for breastfeeding, expressing milk at work, but also certainly some barriers to overcome. And I hope that this might spark some conversations within PEM departments across the country. I would like to thank Dr. Chang and the leadership of the SOEM for providing us with the opportunity to put out this survey, and to everyone that took the time to complete the survey. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions, comments, or ideas. Thank you so much.